hello everyone. Britt Calloway, product manager at Old Dominion Brush. Today we're going to be looking at our DCL 1000 SE25. So 1000 is an improvement to our 800 as far as horsepower, and then the SE is for single engine. 25 is 25 cubic yards. So we're going to go walk around of the unit, and I'm going to describe the different features and benefits and draw some comparisons of this model versus our dual engine model, as well as have some comparisons of this model versus the production unit, because this is a prototype, so we're going to be talking about different features, and some things are going to be changing for our production model. All right, starting in the cab, all of our truck-mounted units on the Freightliner come with a joystick mounted to the armrest. This is really the ideal position. It's very comfortable to operate the unit as the joystick is mounted to the armrest versus having it off the A-pillar. And then we have a 7-inch color display inside the cab with an ignition key switch off of the panel that mounts the control display. And similar joystick is what you've seen before in our other truck-mounted units, our dual engine units, but when you switch into and out of work mode, it's got a rocker switch here. So you don't have to change your view. You can be operating the unit, one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the joystick, and switch into and out of gear. So when you're switching into and out of gear, what you're doing is you're taking power off of the truck's engine and spinning a variable displacement pump that then spins a fixed displacement motor that spins our fan. Piggybacked off of that variable displacement pump is a fixed displacement pump that we operate our boom and dump sections. So it's a very simple system. Now, what allows you to get power off of the truck's engine is a gearbox manufactured by Marmon Harrington called a variable power divider. What it is it's a whole nother gearbox that goes in between the Cummins engine and the Allison transmission. And basically it's a hydrostat, so you have a hydraulic pump and motor, and it's changing the ratio between the engine's input into that box and the box's output into the transmission. So it can go from 1 to 2.2 gear speed ratio. In layman's terms, it allows you to run the engine really fast and allows you to drive the truck really slow. So that's what a dual engine unit does, right? Because a dual engine can run at a high RPM. Meanwhile, you're idling the truck, so you can kind of ride the brake and let the torque converter pull you ahead as you pick up leaves. You're going to get that same sort of throttle response, that same kind of interaction as a dual engine unit. You're able to switch into and out of gear on this unit up to 5 miles an hour. In production will be 20 miles an hour, because we wanted to limit the difference in the operator experience as what they see in a dual engine unit versus a single engine unit. What we've heard on demos is that this seems really like a dual engine unit. So the joystick operations are, there's 2 throttle buttons, so you can change the fan speed, the rocker switch to go into and out of gear. There's a dead man, and this has been redesigned, so it's a very light trigger pull, so you don't have to have like a 3 or 4 ounces of pressure. It's more like 1 ounce. It's very easy to hold the dead man, so you can operate the boom. You're able to swing the boom left and right, go up and down with this section, and in and out with that 3rd section there. So this is our 3-axis boom. This is, now that we're talking about the swing action, on this prototype we have a swing motor. So instead of having a fixed displacement motor that has a 5-to-1 gear ratio gearbox, we've gone to a larger displacement motor that's going to give you that same feel as far as speed, but you no longer have a gearbox. What that means is as you go to the left, you don't have to have all the meshing inside the gearbox, and so there's very little lash, no lash. So very good control. I encourage you to try it out. So this will be in production on all models, not just the single engine in 2023. Moving on to our blower, a couple new features here. The control valves move down into a more accessible area. These manual control valves are really only for diagnostic purposes. You're not going to have these in this valve. We have had some customer feedback. They like the ability to control the boom from outside. That's something that is available to them if there's an interest there. The other big design change we've made is you'll see all the hydraulic hoses swing up and there's actually a hinge point here. It's a little bit difficult to see, but we've eliminated the 30 or so bolts around the perimeter of our blower, and now we have 4. So you remove those 4, and then you swing this whole boom and blower and everything out at one time. You're able to change out your fan, your liner, and get access to your impeller inspection. So this is a really nice improvement. We've heard a lot of good feedback from our municipal, maintenance mechanics, that kind of thing, on that design change. Really beyond that, the other big change is the gasket. So if you ever watch our units operate, you have the ladder frame on the truck, and it can twist. You have this big box that's really rigid. And so as that twisting happens, you get a gap that forms in that seal, no matter how well it's adjusted. So this sprung seal pressure allows, as that box is moving, it's constantly staying in contact. In a sweeper, that kind of connection is negative pressure. So if you get a leak, you're just losing a little bit of vacuum, right? But in our system, that seal is positive pressure. You're blowing material everywhere. Even on a regen, not a regen, but yeah, regenerative air sweeper, the exhaust just is exhausting air, but with us, we're blowing material everywhere. So this has been a really nice improvement as well. Our goal is, how can we drive up our fan sales to get, not just our fan sales, but get faster fan replacements, because then you get better performance out of the machine. And it's a lot less maintenance. And you don't have to have a crane to hold up different components, and you're balancing the blower face and the boom, and you have like multiple things rigged and strapped to the forklift at the same time. This is really kind of low maintenance, low infrastructure required to provide maintenance to this area. The other change we made on the single engine unit is the mounting of the nozzle when it's in its stowed position. It's within 102 inches wide overall width. So it's gonna, basically this is right over the fender, whereas most of our trucks, all of our trucks, besides the CDL exempt unit, that hose puts you out way beyond 102 inches. So technically you're supposed to have special permitting required to move these trucks around. A lot of municipal customers don't really care about permitting, but they do care about overall width to prevent from knocking over mailboxes, running into cars. So we've had a really strong receptive feedback. The other thing is we mount the boom on the chassis, so you don't have to undock the boom to dump. And that's been well received as well. Moving around to the back of the unit, we included a lot of our standard features, or features as standard that are options on our standard dual engine. One is the chipper door, so you'll have a chipper door standard. This allows you to pull these 2 latches, swing the door down, and run your chipper into this box and get more utility and more function throughout the year on this unit. We've also had an off-center box, and that helps us get to 102 inches overall width. Typically, our dual engine units are heavy on the curb side, and the whole time you're picking up, you just get heavier on the curb side, even though the street side's also getting heavy. With this unit, we start out heavy on the curb side, and then we have the equal amount of heavy on these left or street side tires. So it does look a little bit off-center, because it is, but it seems like through the testing we've done, that's actually been really well received to help us get into a shorter overall width. This is a powered door. Works really well. It was a great idea in engineering, and it was a great idea at the plant. But when you go out and demo it, what you find out, you can even see these bowed a little bit, is that the door would pile drive into the ground or into the leaf pile. And it didn't matter how much that door opened up, that leaf pile can be 2 or 3 stories tall. So you see some of our competitors running a powered door now. I'm gonna guess they're gonna run into some problems. So we're gonna go back to just a top hinge gravity door, the latches on the bottom, very similar to our current dual engine unit. On all of our units, we have a backup rear safety camera as a standard, not an option. And we've also redesigned our bumper. We brought it up higher, and we no longer have to cut into the chassis wire harness to wire up our lights. We actually don't touch the chassis lights. We just bolt our bumper right to the bottom. So we really simplified that design. So over on the street side of the unit, you get a little better view of kind of the working components of the hydraulic system that runs our fan and boom. Off the VPD, there's a drive shaft. It might be a little bit difficult to see. That drive shaft plugs into our pump, our tandem pump, one for the fan, one for the boom. And we have the hydraulic tank. This is 2 gallons. So usually systems like this that are moving this much oil will probably have a 100-gallon tank. we're able to go to a 2-gallon tank because the purpose of a hydraulic tank is to de-aerate the oil, to cool the oil, and help filter the oil. Well, we went with 5-micron filter, and we have a charge pump filter, we have a high pressure filter. Filtering is taken care of. De-aeration, this is a cyclone reservoir. So what that means is as the oil comes in, it spins, and that forces inside the oil help to basically get rid of all the trapped air that's in the oil. And then the cooling is not a function of this tank. It's not its purpose, but we have a hydraulic reservoir cooling fan that's got 3 times the amount of area that we need. So that's a big improvement. Basically, what can we do to focus on the cooling aspect and filtering aspect of this system and not really cut any corners. That allowed us to have this tank in a much tighter spot. We're able to package things, get better access for maintenance. Inside, we're going to have remotely accessible grease bearings, grease journals for the bearing. So you won't have to really get in there. If you do need to get in there, it would be basically like an annual maintenance where you're servicing the fan and the impeller shaft and bearings. Let's see. That's really about it. I mean, it's a very simple system. We anticipate a very low number of maintenance points. It'll be change out your hydraulic filters, provide grease points, do a fan inspection. That's about it. Any questions about any of this on this side?
Hydraulics, how long before you have to just clean them out? Can you go for a full year?
Yeah, 500 to 750 hours, do a filter swap. Yep.
Where are the filters at? Where they're located?
So this is the return filter. So in production, you're going to have a Destaco clamp, which is a toolless style clamp, and then this whole cooler will swing out of the way. That'll get you access to the return filter. On the closed loop hydraulic system for the fan drive, you have a charge pump filter, and that's located on the actual variable displacement pump. So that's accessible from underside from a creeper. And then we're going to have a high pressure filter, which isn't on the prototype. We're putting that on the curb side.